So my name is Shai, I'm from Israel, and I'm living in Berlin for 8 years now. And I started my activity before this project in a project called I'm from Israel, Ask Me Anything, where we went to universities and we just had open conversation with students. We did it also in schools, and we still do it. A little bit in a different format, but that's basically my background lately. There's also things I did before, but through this project I started to think how I expand the impact, I would say, and what really is my goal in the future. And I met Hamza. I actually saw his posts before, and I thought I have to meet this person. He have amazing story, first of all, and it really kind of fitted what I was looking for, and I couldn't find in any of the current big movements, such as the pro-Palestinian side or the pro-Israeli side. So I thought, if I want to create something new, it should be with people with the same mindset. And luckily we met, and it goes quite good. And yeah, that's and we continue to do it. Like I would say, in the next couple months, that's our goal, to have as much as interaction with people and to make different events. And yeah, you can probably see us also in other events in universities, and we'll be probably happy to see you again. So yeah.
So basically, I was born and raised in the Gaza Strip. I was born in 1997 and had all my life in the Gaza Strip. Like, I never left. I was all the time in Gaza, except for one time to Egypt for medical treatment. But all my life was based in Gaza. And I grew up typically like every person who's born there, you know, like you are just person, you find yourself part of this conflict, Palestine and Israel, Arab and Jews, and you have no idea, you did not decide to do it, but you found yourself there. And I was like anyone in Gaza being affected by this conflict, whether we are talking about the endless war between Hamas and Israel, or we are talking about Hamas's oppression inside the Gaza Strip, or the general situation about the conflict. And I didn't prefer to be involved. I was just living my life and forgetting about this conflict. And yeah, I had my life, and at the end of my studies at the school, I had to find a university for myself. But because of you don't have much options in Gaza, so you have to choose between one of the three. One is a university owned by Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, the official one, and there they fight each other like almost every week, so I preferred not to go. The other one is far from my home, and the third one is the Islamic University of Gaza, which is a Hamas university, owned and run by Hamas, and like everyone of Hamas studies there. Yahya Sinwar, Ismail Haniya, everyone is there. So it was like you are going to a terrorist stronghold, but you want to have your studies. And I went, and I had like let's say an individual experience. Part is my family, who are somehow liberal, who did not believe in Islamist movements, X and Y and Z. And at the same day, I go to an Islamist university. I have teachings about Islam, radical Islam, jihad, whatever, anti-Semitic teachings. So I had to live between those two contradicting realities in Gaza. And I continued with it until in 2019, I was supposed to graduate, started looking for a job, but because of Gaza's situation, you have to be a Hamas member to get a good job in Gaza, and I wasn't. So I was looking once and twice and third, and every time they confront me that you are not Hamas, you do not qualify, go find something else. And I didn't want to join Hamas. So I continued without finding anything until a group of friends told me that we are trying to form a protest against Hamas. And for me, that was like a nightmare idea. You know, we lived with Hamas since 2007. No one dared to protest them because we saw what they do. If you wrote a post on Facebook or you wrote a post on social media, imagine protesting them. So it was a nightmare for me. But I said to myself, it's better than joining Hamas at least. So just go for it. And I went with those people under the name of We Want to Live movement. It's just a movement looking for better economical conditions and elections in Gaza. We protested, and I only had a banner in my hands written, "We want to live." a few hours later, Hamas came to the street. They started beating us, arresting as much as they could, and I was one of those who were arrested the first time. I spent not a very nice experience in their jails, all the barbarism and the torture that they have in their jails, until my family managed to get me out after paying a bribe to get me out of the jail. And I kept my head down because I said to myself, I can't solve that. I can't solve Palestine and Israel or Hamas or whatever. So just keep your head down, live as everyone is living in Gaza. I continued until 2023. In 2023, in June, the situation was extremely worse. We started to get used to the news that Hamas killed X and Y and Z in their jails. And that was like a weekly routine. We are hearing about our friends, our relatives, our neighbors. At the same time, we have like a disastrous economical situation, like no one can survive in Gaza. So we decided to protest again. That was in 2023, in June, just a few months before the war. And we protested against them in larger numbers, let's say. And unfortunately, as they did it the previous time, they sent their militias to us, beating us, arresting us. And unfortunately, I was arrested again. And when I went to their jails, when they started writing our data, they realized that I'm a convicted criminal who participated in previous protests. Now you are leading a protest. So for them, it was something like a big crime that costed me a lot. A not very good experience until getting released again after paying a bribe. And I was released on August 2023, just a few weeks before the war. And I said to myself, you know what, no one is caring. Like, we are fighting Hamas, but the West does not even hear about us. The Arab world does not say a single word. No one is even noticing our fight. So forget about it. Go to Europe. It's not your fight. It's not your conflict. Just have your life. So I made my way to Europe through illegal immigration from Greece, from Turkey to Greece, and from Greece to here. And before I come here, October the 7th happened. I was back then in Greece. And I started seeing the news when I was in a refugee camp there. And at the beginning, confused, like I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I said to myself, it's Israeli propaganda. That's not true. Hamas did not kidnap 200 people or kill 1,000 to more than 1,200 people in a day. It was something that I couldn't believe at the beginning. A few hours later, we started to see the videos, the news from the people that I trust in Gaza. So I said to myself, it really happened. And I was horrified because hearing about Hamas's barbarity or terrorism is one thing, but when you see it with your own eyes, it's a different story. And I remember our first reaction when we saw the news is for the people that I know and I care about in Gaza is to leave. Because we understood and we realized we know Israel for too long, and we saw how such things end up, or what are the consequences of kidnapping people or killing people in such a way. So I started talking to the people there, and my friends started evacuating, even my family, after a few months of the war. And I started being active again because I wanted to be the moderate voice of the Palestinians. I didn't wait for months to condemn what Hamas did. That was from the early beginning, because yes, we had our fight with Israel, we had our conflict, we had all the things to argue about, but what happened was, for me, is something that I could never tolerate, not under the name of Palestine or Israel or the entire land. They started being active again, and from then talking to all social media platforms, making interviews everywhere, and even trying to build a moderate group for the Palestinians and the Israelis with Shai and other people. And yeah, since then I have been active, and the main idea for me was that I did not escape Gaza just to be this guy who put the conflict behind his back, or to be a victim of it. I wanted to be part of it, and I believe that there is some conversations that we can't have in our home countries. There is some talking points you can never say it in your country, and I believed in Germany I can do that. It's giving me this space. It's giving me this space to get the Arabs and Jews to sit together, or the citizens or exile to sit together. So I started from here, and I said to myself that my activism is not just an abstract with shy, but it's coming from life experience, from political urgency, and also the belief that Germany, giving its past and its current, that it can contribute positively to solve this conflict.
What about your family? Are they still living in Gaza?
So when the war started, part of my family was in Gaza, and at the early months, our home was partially destroyed. It was not targeted, but it was affected because other homes were targeted. It was partially destroyed, so my family had to flee the house. They went to Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. They had to live in a tent for a few weeks. They had to wait for lines for a bag of flour, and I don't know if people understand this feel of pain that we feel when we see my father or my mother waiting in a line for a bag of flour, living in a tent in the street. That lasted for weeks, and until there was the Rafah operation, when it was Biden, the president of the US, and he was saying about the red line. And when I saw that, I told my family, that's it, you have to leave, because if it extended to Rafah, then you can't even make it. So thankfully, my family was evacuated during the war, and right now they are in Egypt.
I was wondering why there are so few Arabs protesting, Arabs abroad, expats, protesting against Hamas. And I told myself, maybe it's because of threats towards the families. So even Arabs, Gazans abroad in the US or in Germany or in Europe won't speak up. So I don't know how it is. Is it as bad that if you're a son of a family, you have to think of your family in Gaza and figure out what to say and what not to say? Not endangering them.
Yeah. When I was in Greece, before I come here, I wrote about the Israeli hostages for the Newsweek in the US. The article was titled, Message to the Gazans, demand the release of the hostages, if not out of moral obligation, at least to save whatever is left from Gaza. Back then, my mother was still in Gaza, part of my family, and Hamas's people went literally to their tent in Khan Yunis, and they threatened them. My family had to say that we don't have anything to do with that, we are not involved. But when my family told me about that, I immediately stopped all my activism. I actually took out after a period, I took out most of my posts because of a similar incident. So for the people in Gaza, if they have a family inside, I personally would recommend not to do that, because I understand the consequences, and I understand that Hamas has no red lines. So it's not a good idea for someone who has a family there to do such a thing.
I think there may be another reason. Because like you mentioned, it's like either you're pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian. So if somebody speaks against Hamas, some people would say, okay, so you support Israel, and that's bad. So,
Yeah.
like for me here, I'm against the war in Gaza, but I can't see myself going to a pro-Palestinian demonstration because it's not for me, and so.
Yeah. I mean, this is unfortunately the results of their actions, because for me, I like to define myself, I'm extremely pro-Palestinian, but the way that they made a new definition of the pro-Palestinian is a totally different story. For me, it's extremely pro-Palestinian to condemn Hamas and to call them terrorists. I'm actually not the weird guy who say that. There is literally protest every day in Gaza saying that Hamas is a terrorist regime, that they want them out. But when I look at the protests here in Germany, they do not reflect any demand that the people of Gaza are chanting for. The protest has been happening for days during the war, under bombardment, starvation, Hamas's terrorism, but they chose to protest during the war. They said Hamas is a terrorist regime, we want them out, we want this war to stop. But at the same time, I come to the protest here in Berlin, I would see them chanting for Hamas, chanting for the same regime that tortured me, chanting for the same regime that started this war. So I think that they had a new definition of pro-Palestinian, or to better call it pro-Hamas, actually, not pro-Palestinian, or just an anti-Israel movement that who are willing to support whatever group is hating Israel, if it was Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, or even ISIS. So they have no limits.
Even though I think the majority don't think like this, but that's what they are doing basically, right?
I would say, I wouldn't generalize that to all the protests, but the general rhetoric unfortunately became like that. I mean, How many protests happened in Germany since this war started? A lot, I can't count. But I couldn't see a single protest condemning Hamas, pro-Palestinian protest. And this is actually what's stopping me. For me, I want to participate in a protest calling for an end to the war. I want to participate in a protest calling for the release of the hostages. But if I see someone glorifying Hamas, or on the other side from Israel calling for a long war or so, or to kick the Palestinians, I would never participate in such a thing.
Yeah, same for me. That's why I didn't learn to be honest.
I think it's still, there's a lot of groups that have alternative, you could say, way of approaching, and seems like the problem is, we had yesterday, for example, event with somebody from Palestinian and Jews for Peace, maybe part of them connected to standing together, but they also get a lot of backlash. It seems like if you're not thinking like at least I would say the core of the pro-Palestinian movement, you can be objected to very harsh, not just criticism. They will call you Zionist, and the same like they do to us. I think that's the biggest problem. Yeah, the machine of propaganda that filters and perpetrate only the narrative of Intifada and all those things that we see on college campuses. And it's very hard to, I think that's what we try to do. I think that the peace movement should be the biggest one. But until now, it's not. And
working with such organizations is, I can imagine it's extremely hard. I mean, on my personal course, if I open my social media platforms, if I went to the messages, I have tons of threats. Almost every day you have that, and the same for Palestinians and Jews for peace. The same. Any Arab voice who's trying to work in such a movement that promotes coexistence, promotes peace, promotes Arabs and Jews sitting together, you have to be attacked. And unfortunately, sometimes it extends beyond online. Like online, okay, I'm not saying it's okay, but we get used to it in a way or another. But even for our events, I mean, like in most of our events, we have to bring 5 police security. Sometimes we hide in a library, sometimes I don't know where. I mean, I can't imagine myself doing something outdoor because we are afraid. I mean, I'm afraid actually to go to a pro-Palestinian protest. You can imagine that. At one time I went and I was identified, and they started the Zionists, the traitor, whatever. So even going to a protest became like a scary idea for me. And this is the thing that I and Shai, with our initiative and programs, trying to make this the norm, not the weird thing, to make them get used that they will always see Palestinians and Israelis sitting together. If they don't like it, they can figure out another country. I mean, I'm actually talking about Germany. I won't talk about other countries.
If there was a poll or an election today in Gaza, and Hamas wanted to be elected, and there was another party, a pro-Palestinian non-Hamas party, who do you think would win?
I will tell you what the numbers say, not what I think, because I'm not sure. I mean, just 2 days ago, there was a poll by the Award organization, and according to this poll, 80% of the Gaza society prefer the Palestinian Authority, not Hamas. Another poll that was conducted by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Research survey a few months ago during the war also said that 65% of the Gaza society don't want to see Hamas in the future. So they are not that far from each other. So I would say that at least more than 60% in Gaza don't want Hamas in their future. I mean, we had enough experience, 18 years with terrorism. We are enough. We want to see the alternative. So the people in Gaza are right now hating Hamas. I wouldn't say that they started to love Israel because they are affected by this war and by Israel's action. But I would say that it's a responsibility to give them the alternative right now, because if we are to leave them in such a case without giving an alternative to Hamas, they don't have much options. Either they go to another militias, and we have a lot in Gaza, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad or whatever, PFLP, or they will go and love Hamas again. They will go to support Hamas again because they couldn't find anyone. Or it's a worse case that even worse militias might evolve, because in Gaza we had some experience with ISIS also. So ISIS might grow and they would go to support ISIS. So I think it's their responsibility now to give them the alternative other than Hamas. I don't care if it was the Palestinian Authority or whatever, but as long as it's Palestinian group assisted or aided by whatever country, I think it's the best solution.
What is your attitude to Netanyahu and the current stage of the war?
I think Netanyahu is a war criminal, actually, and many people disagree with me, but this is my opinion. I think Netanyahu is a war criminal, and I think he has been using this war for his own reasons. Like, not only that he was aggressive at the Gazans, but this is also my opinion, he actually omitted his people, the hostages, who are at least 20 of them are alive right now in Gaza, at least, and more than 50, I think, at the moment is still in Gaza. And I don't remember the last moment he even spoke about them. So I think he has been using that for his own political survival, and that many crimes happened during this war in Gaza, and at the end of the day, he should be held accountable for whether he was corrupt even before the war. So he should be even held accountable for the corruptions, and if proven war crimes, he should be held accountable for
I
it.
think it's not only him, it's the whole government.
Yes, for sure. I mean, he's not the only one, but I wouldn't generalize. As I said, anyone proven to have committed or participated in such a thing, he should be held accountable. Yes, I hate Hamas, I condemn them, I despise them, and I want a better future for my society, but that doesn't mean giving a green light policy to the Israeli government to do what they did in Gaza. Or right now, I hear even some ministers talking about Trump plan or what. Netanyahu himself, he spoke about it. So I would never tolerate that.
Shai, is it possible that the Israeli government can be, I think the next votes are next year?
I think so, yeah.
If there will be an election.
Elections are next year?
I'm not sure
And,
there
yeah,
will be elections.
is it possible to reject the government before the next election?
As you see, it's like a roller coaster. And after 7th of October, if you had asked me right away, there was a lot of disappointment, and for sure it would flip. But now this rhetoric comes back of saying, what, we're gonna go back and then they're gonna attack us again, and if you go to the left, there's all this kind of fear-mongering like talk of, oh, now if we give to the left, we get 7th of October back. I hear it a lot, so we have to finish the job, all this populism, so it works. With time it works. But let's see, who knows?
Is that unfortunately October the 7th happened under the radar of the most right-wing Israeli government that came, I think. Like with Ben Gvir and Smotrich and other radical ministers. I mean, it was right-wing, I would say. And yeah, this is the irony, that they accuse the left of not taking proper security measures while they... I'm trying to find good words actually to describe it, but they failed to protect their own country, and they were like, in a way or another, responsible for what happened at this day. So it's weird actually how they take this rhetoric to make it as if they were the one who would take the Israeli society out of this misery, not the one who put it actually the Israeli society in this situation.
I wonder what would happen if we had a presence of Israeli soldiers as planned today for good in the Gaza Strip, like a second West Bank, because then you would have for years soldiers being sent to Gaza, probably being killed as well, and that might tear Israeli society apart. Don't you think that?
I would say yes, it would for sure affect the Israeli society, because if the Israeli army is going to stay in Gaza, pretty sure the same militias would still have some sort of existence, even if it was some smaller groups. I mean, when they are in Gaza themselves, the soldiers, it's easy to attack them than when they are in Israel itself. So this will for sure cost them when it comes to human lives. Also, it will cost them when it comes to security, because this will cost them a lot. I mean, that also was the case when there was settlements in Gaza before 2007, 2005. And I don't think they are going to do the same mistake again, because what they were talking about is a new American company to take some role in Gaza. Netanyahu was avoiding to say that the army is going to stay in Gaza in a way or another. And even if he did, a part of all of these costs, it will also cost him internationally, like politically, because Israel was on the bridge to make a normalization agreement with Saudi Arabia. If he did such a thing, I'm pretty sure Saudis wouldn't be that keen to make a normalization agreement. And it might even make this situation more tension between the Arab countries who have good relations with Israel, and they refuse that Israel takes such a role. And I think a lot of them share the same vision when we are talking about Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. You feel that they are all in the same ally. So it will cost Israel a lot. I'm not sure if they are going to do such a thing or not, but if I was an Israeli, I would say that this is a terrible mistake that will affect my country before talking about anyone else.
Yeah, I don't know if I could answer for any government official or something, but I'm not sure I don't think it's anywhere really on the table. I think most of the society don't want to have the control like this in Gaza. And I don't even think it could be exactly like the West Bank, because in the same time, you do have the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank. There is some cooperation. It would not be similar. So the effects will be real, like really, as you say, like psychologically and economically, and even I think a government like that also is very capitalistic will not want it. I think that they more try to export the problem to maybe some other, I don't know,
Arab countries.
Yeah, hopefully Arab country. We'll see if it works, and some find some alternative with, I don't know, they spoke about Hamulas, and they sadly refused the Palestinian Authority there. I think in the end they will have to settle for something like this, and they will probably prefer this kind of solution than having soldiers there, because also the people in Israel would not want that. There's a big difference between have a war against Hamas and like send soldiers there to, have control all the time.
Answer or what's
Solution.
the solution for you?
I'm drinking.
You are the one to.
He's avoiding that.
Still.
I wanted to know it from you.
Yeah, okay. I will tell you what I see the way forward. I mean, for me, the way forward can never. I will tell you for sure what cannot be the way forward. It cannot be that Hamas still in Gaza at the way forward. It cannot be that the Israeli army occupies Gaza at the way forward. I would say that whatever Palestinian leadership, whether we are talking about Palestinian Authority assisted by international community, international countries to lead Gaza, or whatever Palestinian group that can build their own country, because at the end of the day, it must be done with the Palestinian hands, with the moderate Palestinian hands. So what I see the way forward right now is what should be done is for the Palestinian Authority or whatever Palestinian group to be assisted with the Arab countries to disarm what is left from Hamas, because at that point Hamas is not the same Hamas that was on the 6th or 7th of October, the Hamas that was sending thousands of rockets at Israel in a single day, the same Hamas that had like terrorists to invade Israel and did such atrocities. It's weaker than that, I believe. And the way right now is for the Palestinian groups and the Arab countries to disarm what is left from Hamas and to start a new Palestinian leadership. It must not be even with elections. It can be just an autocratic government, like ministers, everyone from his specialization, not politically attached to anyone, to take it through an interim period for Gaza for like 5 or 7 years until Gaza is rehabilitated and able to do actually elections, because I can see at the moment that Gaza is able to do elections.
I have a difficult question to understand more like how is the feeling in these two countries, let's say, because you hear a lot of voices, a lot of videos, and so on and so on. And there is like a lot of Israelis who say like the Palestinians hate us, they want to kill us, and the same from the Israeli, from the Palestinian you hear also the Israeli hate us, they want to kill us. Because now you are both here and you live there in both countries. What is your real feeling about this kind of narratives?
Actually, I was asked this morning, I was working with a group, and they asked me, do Palestinians in Gaza hate Jews? And it's a hard question, to be honest. And my answer was, the Palestinians, the people in Gaza hate the Jew that they were told about. They hate the Jew that Hamas saw them. They hate the Jew that the Palestinian Authority saw them. Because it's both, for Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. They portray us, the Israeli, in one of the two ways. Whether he is this violent settler in the West Bank who's attacking civilians or trying to take over their home, or it's the Israeli army. And when we see the Israeli army, it's in the West Bank, it's in checkpoints. In Gaza, we see it in military escalation. So in both cases, they wouldn't love this Jew. I personally wouldn't love to see a Jew attacking me or a Jew in the West Bank attacking my people. So I told them that, yes, they hate this Jew, because this is what we have been taught about the Israelis before, until maybe 2021. That's all what I knew about Israelis. Violent settlers, the army. Violent settlers, the army. They continue to repeat this narrative for us, because once you go beyond it, you can reach something else. So this is one thing. The second thing is that before the war, there was support for Hamas. Yes, we protested against them, but the support was major. I can never deny that. And even
The majority was supporting them.
Yes. And to explain it more to you, when you ask a Palestinian about Hamas, they have two Hamas in Gaza. We have two Hamas. Hamas as a political government or whatever, and Hamas, the militia, the terrorists. The political one, no one likes that. Corrupt, even the Hamas people themselves don't like them. So let's put that aside. Now we have the Hamas militias who come under the term quote-unquote resistance or armed resistance. That was an idea that you can never discuss in Gaza. You can never criticize or see if it's working, it's a terrorism or not. You can never have such a discussion in Gaza, and the support was major. But right now in Gaza, I'm seeing it that the people went even beyond that. They are like, put all the armed resistance narrative aside. It's Hamas, it's not Hamas, we don't want that. We tried that since too many years, it's not working. Let's put that aside and see another way. So this is the opportunity that I'm talking about. I wouldn't say that the Palestinians right now love Israel, because the majority in Gaza were affected by the war. Many, whether in a way or another, lost someone by this war. And I'm not expecting them, after losing a brother or a sister, to come up and say, oh, I love Israel right now.
No, I'm speaking before.
Yeah, before, it was massive, unfortunately, but this is why I'm saying that, as much as weird it sounds, but there is a way forward right now, that those people reached the point that everyone wants to despise Hamas, to despise such a narrative. It's a responsibility now, whether we are talking about Israel, Palestinian Authority, or even the international countries, to give those people the alternative for that. Otherwise, they will just go back and we start the same circle again.
Yeah. From my side, I actually, before 7th of October, I was a little bit like out of politics. There's two different things. If people people supposedly support the war, what does it really mean? There is, of course, after 7th of October, a feeling that we cannot live with Hamas anymore. And you have to take in count that also, I lived close to Gaza for 4 years. I studied there. And I was very left-wing, and it was, I lived in Sderot, which is the most, Otzma Yehudit, the party of Smotrich. Now was this Ben Gvir? Otzma Yehudit? They're not together?
We
kind
are
of.
together with it. It's Tzionut Datit, it's Smotrich.
Tzionut Datit, okay. It's Mayudit, so it's worse, Ben Gvir. But they had 30%. It was the city with the most this extreme right-wing party. There was this stronghold of this party. Sderot. They got always rockets from Gaza. And also very poor working class city. And yeah, and you know, I of course was kind of like trying to debate people about it, but at the same time, those people who I was visiting, I was living there maybe 3-4 years, and then I left. But those people, some of them born there, and that's all they know. Like similar to what's going on in Gaza. For 14 years, it's almost or more, 18 years. It's a whole generation that just know this. Yeah, you just know those people shoot rockets at you, and
You need to hate them, basically.
well, it's similar to the way that if you don't hate them, you will get criticism, or you want to have peace. At least in this situation, if you go to Tel Aviv, it's different. It's the opposite. It's really different from place to place. But if you talk about, for example, places like Sderot or other places in the area, there is a feeling that we had enough. 18 years, and then 7th of October, and yes, they want to not live with Hamas next door. Yeah, they tried. They said, okay, we tried. We gave them. There's this narrative, which is also factual. Yeah, they left. A lot of them also live in this area now. They left their houses. They thought, okay, we're gonna have peace. So that's all they know at the same time. Yeah, similar situation. But depends. I don't know about is it a poll like who that most want? I don't know if there was a poll or something like this. But at the same time, I do believe that if you give them alternative of even like two-state solution where there's no terror, there's no Hamas, I think most Israelis would take this opportunity.
I think I remember I said it in a previous event between us also, that there is no doubt you have radicalization in Gaza and in Israel, that's for sure. And for me, there is no doubt that the radicalization in Gaza is higher than the one in Israel, at least before the war. But the scary thing is the jump in radicalization in Israel before the war, like they jumped in a scary scale. I can't see
The society or the politician now?
the society also.
Society, yeah.
The society.
Before the war?
But after the war. After the war, you saw like a jump. I started to, even when I see similar videos, I like see videos pre-October and post-October, and I look, is that the same society? Like, it's really something to be considered and something to be worked on, because it's growing, unfortunately. It's growing faster and faster, whether in Israel or right now because Gaza is not the entire Palestine. You have also the West Bank, who are becoming more radical. And in some polls, they say we want Hamas to rule us. We see October the 7th as a good thing, or we accept it in a way or another. So I think it's something to be treated, because we are living literally with each other. If we are going just to overlook such a things, we are unfortunately waiting for another October. If we leave that the case.
Yeah, let's say like this: the fact that you asked this question, it implies that there's a problem. It's for sure too many people. It's too many radicalization. If it's 40, 50, 60, 80%, it doesn't matter. I think like because we hear and the moderate voices are not heard, this is already a very bad sign.
Out of your experience, what are good strategies to moderate those voices? You both spoke about feeling not belonging in those pro-X, pro-Y, black and white narratives and sides. So we are all here, I think, wishing to find more nuance and a more neutral, pro-human kind of way of life. So what, out of your experience, what helps bring people there?
I mean, It's a bit big question. I mean, it depends on what audience you are targeting, like whether we are talking about society, young generation, or politicians, or...
Just our family, our friends, our
I will tell you what helped
people
me.
around us.
Yeah, I will tell you what helped me personally, because I used to be anti-Semite, I used to be extremist, I used to be somehow radical, but what helped me the most is talking to them. I didn't like what they say, I would be honest. I was actually thinking of to learn how to respond actually to these arguments. That's how it started for me. And the more discussions or the work, whether it's initiatives, the workshops, whatever, to the simplest thing, even if I managed to put two Palestinian and Israeli to cook together, I believe that this experience would be more helpful for them than the stupid debates or whatever. It worked for me, and I'm pretty sure it can work for someone else.
Yeah, but it's about the leaders of the people.
That's why I said it's a big question, yeah.
But I don't think so, actually. I think there is a lot of power in just doing these very immediate, taking immediate action in our own circles and
Yeah.
having an immediate effect. Because sitting and waiting for our leaders to save us, we've been doing that for
I mean,
generations.
I would say that our leaders, whatever leaders, they are at the end of the day corrupt, and they will do whatever the society wants them to do if it was like a general response. So if Netanyahu wants to make peace with Palestinians right now, if he 100% wants to make that, he can make that right now. Whether it's because of the government, the society is afraid, they want security, so he can do that, even if he wanted to. At the end of the day, if there was a society that urges him or pushes him to do such a thing, he will do it at the end of the day. This is why somehow it's a long process, but I prefer to take it from the down of the pyramid until the upstairs of the pyramid, because this is also one side, and the second reason is that I don't have power over Netanyahu or over Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. So I prefer to start from downstairs, and yeah, this is all I can do.
I was having a question. If you talk about this two-state solution, which two-state solution are you talking about? Like Gaza and West Jordan are divided. There's something in between. How to get the borders together to get a unit, or do you mean like having two Palestines areas in Israel?
Yeah. For me, my idea about the two-state solution is similar to the formal two-state solution, like the internationally recognized two-state solution, which is about Gaza, the West Bank, and a shared capital between Palestinians and Israelis in Jerusalem.
There was also a plan of a tunnel, I think, with the Clinton parameter.
Yeah.
Something like that. To connect it.
Yeah, so they were connected, and I think if a solution is to be promoted, this road should for sure be open between Gazans and the West Bank people, and I hope also for Gaza and Israel, because I'm not looking for a two-state solution with isolation from Israel. You know, I want it to be open. So we have the roads. I think like those small details or technicalities wouldn't be the obstacle when we agree on everything. I don't think we will stop too much at that point.
How many Gazans left? Do you have any figure?
Yes, before the war.
Left since October 7.
Since October, I wouldn't expect a big number, because the irony, so when the Gazans have to leave Gaza, you have to go to the Rafah crossing, then to Egypt. And the irony, there was always a scenario that you always have to pay the price for the Egyptians. That's happening for like many years, so we got used to it. We deal with it as if it was like, you know, it's just a normal transaction. Yeah, you even get a receipt for the bribe. So it's typical normal. And before the war, I remember I left Gaza 23rd of August 2023. The bribe was $500. Okay, we can manage that in a way or another. The moment the war started, the bribe became $5,000 at least for each person. So This is a big money in Gaza. $5,000 in Gaza is not the $5,000 in Germany. You know, our monthly salary is like $400, $500 at maximum. So 5,000 is a massive money, and we are Middle Easterns. You know, we have big families. Personally, I had to collect $25,000 for part of my family, or not all of us. If it was all of us, it's a nightmare. It needs a lot of money. That was the reason why many Gazans couldn't escape. Only those who managed to get their money in a way or another. I mean, personally, I asked for donations. I couldn't make it all alone.
Again, for both of you, what is the point of disagreement between you and the, let's say, the pro-Palestinian movement, and then between you and the pro-Israeli movement? So where your kind of way diverse?
That's a good question. Well, obviously, the voices that don't see any future with of peace with Palestinian, or having a state, or trusting Palestinian. There's a lot of voices like this. I mean, I wouldn't say the majority, but I disagree with them, and hopefully they will, you know, see something that maybe they haven't seen. Maybe again, it's the trust thing, and this will change. Yeah, I think a lot of people support basically, but they're not willing to take a step and to offer. I would say, like, what's important is the alternative, and to be. You could be like pro-Israel or pro-Palestinian. I think I'm both, and to offer a new way of peace. And I think that's missing. Like, we're like, oh, we're not gonna deal with this. We're just gonna be like the pro-Israel voice, and just like say, you know, to take like the news and show our side and how bad it is for us, and not see a way out of this or find a solution. I think that's what mostly people, not that they're against, but I think they're not active enough from my community in that manner. And then there's a vacuum, and in this vacuum, the loudest voice right now is the extreme pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas voices, anti-Zionist voices, and not something that counterbalance it. And I wish there would be more from my side.
I mean, for me, it depends what pro-Palestinian movement you are talking about. You know, the one in the US is different from the one in Europe, or the one in Gaza, or the Middle East in general. But I will give you a general answer for that. First of all, I have a problem with the pro-Palestinian movement that promotes terrorists, that glorifies Sinwar, Hamas, or whatever, even in Berlin calling for the killing of the Jews. I have big problem with those people. This is one thing. The second thing is trying to find good words. I'm sorry for my bad words, but the ignorant people who hijacked our cause, those who are calling for maximalist demands like dismantle the Zionist entity or eradicate Israel or whatever, those are a part of that. It's immoral and terrible things to say. It's never gonna happen. It's like calling, oh, let's dismantle Germany. It's never gonna happen. Germany is here and you have to live with it. So I have a problem with those people that they are hijacking our cause for calling for demands that can never be done and should never be done, actually. And I prefer also, a third problem is that they don't give a room for a pragmatic Palestinian voice to come and speak. Whether you are an extremist, you are welcome. Otherwise, you are the traitor, the Zionist, or whatever. You should not even participate, not to mention speaking. I mean, I want a pro-Palestinian movement calling for an end to the war. I don't think the war is benefiting anyone. I want a pro-Palestinian movement calling for a better future. They are focused and obsessed with destroying Israel. I wish they were obsessed about building Palestine as they were obsessed about destroying Israel. If they did that, I would be good.
But these are the majority are not Palestinians, right?
No, at all.
Exactly.
This is the irony that.
This is the irony of the thing.
Yes, yes.
Also, what I saw.
I don't want to go and name countries, yeah, but the irony is that the majority of them are not Palestinians. Some are, you can say, Palestinians by this refugee that we give by birth, you know, we have this special thing. Anyway, like from other Arab countries, and none of them had to live one day in Gaza, West Bank, Israel, or whatever. They have literally zero influence or zero information about the situation there. They did not have to go through Hamas's terrorism or oppression or the Palestinian Authority's corruption, the situation in the West Bank. They did not have to suffer the consequences of this conflict. We are the ones who are paying the consequences of it, and they are the ones who are trying to tell us how to live.
Yes, I completely agree.
I want to go back to something you said that it's clear that Hamas shouldn't stay ruling Gaza, and a lot of people are saying it, like, obviously in Israel, but also other people. But the question is, like, technically, Hamas is not going to put down their weapons, and nobody except, unfortunately, the Israeli army is willing to go there and try to take them. So I still don't see technically how it's going to happen.
I mean, I don't want to go deep answering this question, because at the end of the day, I understand Hamas's ideology in a way or another, and this is also part from their ideology. They would never drop their weapons, no matter what happened in Gaza, no matter how civilians were killed. Like, it's a death cult. I can't find better ways to describe it. But as I said, I think they are weak enough for someone else to intervene, because the IDF's way of bombardment, it would never be a solution. Someone has to go more on the ground on Hamas, and someone who's also accepted by the Gazans, because I have to admit that the Gazans don't like the Israeli army, and that's why they don't help them. They wouldn't help them. So when it's an Arab army, when it's Palestinian authorities, police officers, they would be seen as allies to the Gazans, and the Gazans would be more willing to stand with them against Hamas. And I think this is the more effective way of finishing this war. You know, it sounds weird, but from what I hear from the people in Gaza, Hamas is weak enough for something like that to happen.
But you really see, like, another Arab country or the authority, I mean, sending people to fight the Hamas?
Yes, that's why I was saying. Actually, the Palestinian Authority a few weeks ago said we are willing to clash with Hamas. So I was like, if I was even in the Israeli government, I would open the doors for the Palestinians. Go finish the job, even for Israel to get out of this international pressure. It's not us.
But for me, actually, so what they are doing, this is the weapon, because for me, Hamas is a political thing, but it's like more ideology. And like he said before, it's like you have this hate and this, because you only see this military. And what they are doing, for me, this is actually how you could fight this kind of ideology, through this.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Is for me the weapon.
Exactly. It's not only a political thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like more a think ideology.
Exactly.
And through now bombing, or like the 7 October, you are creating more Netanyahu and more. It will not be called Hamas. It will be called maybe, I don't know, or something else. But this is the ideology that will be reborn and reborn and reborn and reborn and reborn.
It's those parties, you know. It's both a military thing. One can never deny that, and it's an ideology. Now, I think the military was severely harmed by the IDF. As I said, that's not Hamas that's sending thousands of rockets or thousands of terrorists or whatever. But the ideology cannot be faced with bombs. It's the ideology can only be countered with an alternative ideology. And until now, the Israeli government, is not say opening the doors or even talking about it.
Another difficult question about school. Is it true that in school, both sides in Israel or that's in Gaza, they teach you really to hate the other, or it's like just stupid stuff?
You want to start?
Because they say it about Tunis, and this really never happened in Tunis. So this I can say. There is like really this hate against the state of Israel, but they never ever say something bad at school, at least. In the street, something else you can speak about.
So maybe that's why they don't need to teach it in school. It's so predominant. Yeah, I would say Israel is still, we can criticize a lot, of course, but it's still very, very diverse. And I'm very proud that there is a lot of schools that are actually have Arabs and Jews together, and it's bilingual schools, and it's, you know, they're not under threat or something like this, and there's a lot of wish for it. Like people want, there's gewünscht, like it's requested, and it depends on the area. And depends on the school system. We have couple, like we have the religious system or the Orthodox, and then we have the secular, and there's a couple different systems.
Like school now, like religious school, or like let's say
Secular one.
Yeah, secular.
one, okay.
Then you, for sure, if you go to places where it's more like, how you call it? Yeah, like national religious areas.
Jerusalem, for example.
No, not Jerusalem. I would say it's more like Orthodox. Then you have the Orthodox system, but there you also have the nationalist, like the settler. The end of it is the settler movement.
Okay.
And for sure they have very different. Yeah, I don't know exactly, but they have probably more focus on military and the need for defense and the propaganda, or the how you call it, like the rhetoric, but like banging non-stop.
Stereotype.
Like
Stereotyping.
Like a higher race.
No, this I would definitely not agree. I find it very, very terrible that you say that. I never experienced, never saw.
No.
This is terrible
Not
what
in
you say.
regular school, but I'm sure that in the Haredi with me.
How do you know? How do you know?
First of all, because they openly say it now.
Okay, maybe it's like in the street, but why would they say it in school? I'm sorry,
Okay, I don't know if it's
Yeah.
a fact, I assume it.
Okay. What for sure, and this happens also in secular, where I learned is the narrative that says that we have to defend ourselves. It's always the outside, the Arabs that want to kill us in the end. And I mean, you know, it's also based on really facts and generation of wars and then the history, and you have to learn it. So the narrative is always there. Yeah, they don't have to say exactly what they mean. But to grow up in a kind of military and frightful thinking could definitely lead to people later, you know, tend to have less trust. That definitely happens even in a secular school, but not like hate. At least not in. Again, I can also speak for myself, and I hope not in other school. It would probably not go also very. Like there will be a lot of criticism if people would say openly, you know, Arabs are bad, we are superior, or something like this. Yeah.
I mean, for us in Gaza, I would speak about Gaza. I don't want to go to the West Bank and Jerusalem. Like we have two Gazas. We have the Gaza before Hamas and the Gaza after Hamas, because Hamas took over the power in 2007. So still know some stuff about it. Before Hamas takes over the control of the Strip, we had the Palestinian Authority running everything. It was the official Palestinian Authority running everything, schools, textbooks, and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say that because there is like a propaganda campaign right now that, oh, they are teaching it, like they made you feel that we have books how to kill a Jew or how to attack an Israeli. We don't have that. We don't have that in a textbook. I didn't see it, at least. This is at first. And it was somehow a secular school, and the thing, it's also somehow supervised by the European Union, because they are the one who donate to this educational system, so they have an overlook about it. But when Hamas took over the control of Gaza in 2007, they clashed with the Palestinian Authority. They started fighting each other. So the Palestinian Authority told their employees, including their teachers, to step down and not work right now, because there is a militia running the city, and the official Palestinian Authority went to the West Bank. So Hamas had to step in and to provide us with their own teachers, which they were jihadists, imams, Hamas members, sometimes, many times actually, even school principals to be Hamas members. And those teachers were, yes, they were responsible for radicalizing the generation that they taught. I wouldn't say that they have new books or like terrible books, like as the propaganda portrays, but I would also say that those teachers are a nightmare for a generation to be taught with. I mean, some of them had Telegram group channels for like online education, and October the 7th happened. So in these groups, it was just a young student. And when October the 7th happened, we saw the reactions in these groups. It's documented. It was horrific. I felt that I'm talking to one from ISIS. And I was thinking of it. I don't care about him, to be honest. But I care about the generation that is being taught by him. I care about the students in the group who are seeing what is he posting right now. And yes, they managed to do a very big radicalization in Gaza since 2007 until now. So yes, this is the problem with our educational system.
What's your impression about UNRWA?
UNRWA, I would say that there is like a propaganda campaign, like to get UNRWA as demonized as if it was Hamas itself, and I don't agree with that. Also, people criticize UNRWA, and they have the right to, because there was some UNRWA employees who apparently were Hamas people who invaded Israel and kidnapped people. But I would also explain that the problem was not because, like, that did not happen because of the nature of the UNRWA itself. Hamas is like a cancer in Gaza. You will find them in every organization, every NGO, they are there. So if it wasn't UNRWA, if it was Germany doing this thing, you will find them there, because it's like 19 years or 18 years, so they had enough time, enough resources, enough everything, and the world was dealing with them as if they were like a status quo, no one wants to touch this problem before the war. Everyone was like, okay, Hamas in Gaza, that's fine, no one is talking about it. So I think this empowered them. This is at first. The second is, I also understand that UNRWA is responsible for the Palestinians who are designated as refugees by UNRWA. And those we are talking about 70% of Gaza society, 70%. And UNRWA provides them with education, with healthcare, with other services like social services. But I mean, it's necessary right now. It's necessary during the war because the people need a lot of humanitarian aid. But I would say on the long term, yes, it's harming us. It's harming the Palestinian-Israeli conflict because of many things, actually. One is that it made the Gaza society aid dependent. Like, we are expecting UNRWA all the time to pay for our education and for our healthcare and for our social services. So when UNRWA is assigned with these tasks, what is the responsibility of the government? They will have time and resources to do tunnels, to invade Israel or whatever. So they are taking the responsibility of the government. So this is one problem, to make my society aid dependent. I don't want to see my society waiting for a charity. I want them to work. And the second thing is the refugee question about UNRWA, and this might be like something for, let's say, the final solution between Palestine and Israel, is that it gives, because we have steps, I can't see them solving that right now, is that it gives the refugee status for the Palestinians by birth. And that does not happen, actually, except for us. This is one thing. The second thing is that you give the people this hope that they someday will go back to what is right now the state of Israel. And this is not going to happen. This is not realistic. And this is an obstacle. When you give them the hope that they are going to go back to what is now the state of Israel, then what peace you are talking about? You are just doing bigger Palestine. That's it. And that's actually part of the problem. I mean, it actually extended to beyond Gaza and the West Bank. It extended to the Palestinian refugees in Syria, whom the Syrian authorities refused to give them any documents because they are waiting for the day when they will go back to what is now the state of Israel. So they did not integrate as any normal refugees in the world, like European refugees escaping from one country to another, integrating, and that's it. So it's standing as an obstacle. I'm not saying that the right is not legitimate, because many people were, this is a long history, but many people were kicked out, or many people did not chose the war between the Arabs and the Israelis and were just kicked out. So I think they should be compensated, whether we are talking about financially, with residing them in other countries, whatever compensation that works to solve this. yeah, this is how I see UNRWA.
Actually, because you spoke a little bit about your project, but actually, what is the aim of your project? What is your target audience? First, that's my first question.
So
So, if I understand well,
Yeah.
your target now is just the public, right?
mean-
The one who come.
It's more of like the pro-Palestinian and the pro-Israeli community, even if they were not Palestinians and Israelis. Whoever is interested or involved in this pro-Palestine and pro-Israel thing is somehow something of our targeted audience. If we are talking about Arabs and Jews, or if we are talking about, let's actually take it to the goals. I mean, the goals for us is first to build this floor for the Arab Jews or those who are involved to have a platform to debate, to discuss. We don't have to agree about everything. I have a lot to disagree with Shai, actually. But we still have these events as much as we can. And so this is one thing. The second thing is to combat, by our events and by our initiatives, to combat the extremism and the anti-Semitism that we are seeing first here in Germany, because at least for me, this is becoming my new home. So I don't want to see that in Germany, and for sure in Palestine and Israel.
Do you think also maybe in the future you can speak towards politicians with them?
I
Because I
did.
think
I've
this
also
is-
already did.
Yeah.
I did.
Maybe we'll. Maybe you will be politician.
Hopefully. No,
but,
Palestine and Israel, this is a nightmare. But yes, I did. I spoke to the Green Party. I spoke with previously Herr Armin Laschet, I went to the Bundestag. So yes, I talked to many people in the parliament. I talked to many people in the government. And yeah, we are trying to find our way with the German bureaucracy. So you can imagine.
Yeah.
Also Italy, no? You went
On
to...
Italy, I went and I spoke to the Italian parliament, and in late June, I'm going to the European Parliament in Belgium.
What do you
Because-
expect?
Yeah, because that's what I'm missing also, like in the politician discourse. They don't really have this, and that's actually what I expect from politician, to have this gray zone, not
Yeah.
like this or this is not a football game, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I'm asking, what is your target? Because us, maybe it's nice, and then we will speak to your parents, friends, but at the end, someone like
Yeah.
politician will say this kind of gray zone will be much more powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was with the Green Party, I think that was like recently, like 2-3 weeks at maximum ago, and maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago in the Italian Parliament. And yeah, we saw how this polarization, even in the Parliament, you know, everyone has his own team, Palestine and Israel, and everyone has the absolute truth. And yeah, I think it's our job to tell them that they don't, and try also to use their influence for what we are doing, because yes, it's, as you said, it's not nice what we are doing, but without strong resources, we wouldn't be able to do something, because the extremist thing, I mean, I wouldn't also want to name countries, but we don't have resources, for example, like Qatar or Iran or whatever. We don't have that. I don't have the Qatari money or the Qatari propaganda machine or Iran's resources. So I'm trying to use these people's influence. Yep.
Okay.
I just...
I have two questions. The first one, what do you think about the German Jewish press, like Jüdische Allgemeine? I sometimes read it, and I think they have a very special view on this conflict. And the other question belongs to the discussion about the Declaration of Jerusalem in Die Linke. I don't know if you have followed the discussion.
The woman that posted something online.
Yes, too. But afterwards, they had a Parteitag and were decided about the IRA and the Jerusalem Declaration. And,
I have a lot to say about that, yeah. You want to start? Yeah.
But can I ask what you think about it?
I have no own
Yeah,
opinion.
audience.
Okay.
I tried to read something about, but I didn't understand what
Yeah.
is really the difference. I saw some interviews by Instagram, and one of those on this side, and other ones on that side, and I have no solution.
Yeah, I don't know really a lot about the terminologies and differences, but I would definitely think that we should anyway, regardless what they decide and how it's actually will implement, that to talk about anti-Zionism as a problem. And yesterday I also talked about a little bit that I think today, whatever you call it, anti-Zionism or anti-Semitism, if it leads to violence, if it's a new way of hate movement, we have to start to be really honest about it. And if it leads to the same place, yeah, for example, I said it yesterday also, that the person who shot those 3 embassy workers, he had a post saying exterminate Zionists, like openly. He had a post with those words. And yeah, we have to start also think, I'm not saying everyone think the same, but the people who are active in this movement really have in mind going around and killing. That's a justification for like violence in the end, you know. So it doesn't matter how it's really called. For me, as a Jew that believes that Israel should exist, and but people will just say Zionist, and then it's like okay to create violence, yeah. And I think that's what we should start being honest, and not just, you know, being stuck in this. Oh, if it's just anti-Zionism or anti-Semitism, and yeah, we should be honest what it really means. I think you cannot be in the Linke today and talk about the right of Israel to exist. Correct me if I'm wrong. That is kind of like the normal right now in the Linke. So, yeah.
What is the normal?
I mean, in this party, the Linke, I think, like abolish Zionism, all those talk about, you know, from the river to the sea and Israel not existing is pretty much the normal talk in this party, the Linke, which I at some point liked, because I am left wing. I come from like working class kind of socialist ideology. And now yeah, it's terrible how you see them march with, you know, Islamists and.
Often cited historian who is funded by the Stiftung Wissenschaft und Politik, and she claims that you need to talk and need to interact with Hamas and take them as part of the solution for the Middle East.
Yeah. Judith Butler? Is it?
No. Muriel Assad.
Muriel. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there are voices that see them. I mean, that's what happens in the left. I mean, Judith Butler is the biggest example for many left-wing parties, extreme left-wing parties.
Crazy, yeah.
It's crazy. Where she said Hamas and Hezbollah are the not just the liberation movement, that's extension of the progressive movement.
Oh, yeah.
Who said this?
Yeah.
Judith Butler.
Who is Judith Butler?
She's like.
She's a gender icon, and she comes from the gender studies. She's a famous.
I mean,
studies.
I would say that, I mean, this is like for such historians, it's like somehow connected to the philosophy of Fanon to go to France and resistance movement that started with actually France and Algeria. And yeah, for them, as long as a country is occupied, anything they do is justified. This is Fanon from France, and now we are living with the outcomes of him. Thank you. Anyway, it's actually weird to listen to those people who say that Hamas should be part of the future. I mean, I wish there was a way to make them live with this future, actually, not us, because we tried and we don't like it, so they can't try it. I mean, I didn't see the US administration saying, okay, let's make a new future with Taliban. Could be a good idea. Or Iraq is saying, let's make a new government with ISIS. We have to get them in the political discourse about us. But it always happens in Gaza and Palestine. It's always okay when it comes to Palestine and Israel. Whatever terrorist regime that you will bring, they should be on the platform.
We maybe have 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, just what is your attitude to what is happening in Gaza right now?
My attitude, it blows my mind, I would say. After I finished the event, maybe shy, started to notice that I will grab my phone and I will be 24 hours on my phone because it's devastating what's happening there. It's horrible. And day by day, it's like becoming more and more terrible for the people. But I don't know how to describe it. Like, there is no words to describe living in a tent, in a street, waiting for everything. Like, it's more than a year. And not to mention all the surroundings, you know, the army and Hamas. This is a totally different story. Apart from that, you live in a tent and you literally have something to keep you alive, nothing more. Like, you don't have the pleasure to ask for such resources. It's like the life is stopped actually there. Like, you know, they don't have education since October. They don't have proper health care since October. The universities stopped. Everything stopped. Work stopped. Life is stopped in Gaza since October the 7th. And every day by day, I see how desperate the people become there. It's scary. That's why I always say that this war must stop yesterday, not now. And for sure, with the release of the hostage, but it must stop. It cannot continue like that. The level of trauma and the suffering and misery that the people are living with right now in Gaza is beyond describing. I don't know what else to say.
I want to go back to the topic of the question of how do we promote an alternative movement or an alternative to this black and white framing of either pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinians. I come across many people that feel like they are in some way obliged to choose a side. And I find myself often argue against this need to choose and only stand by one side, but I find it very, very difficult personally in my circles to get through this point in the conversation, because I feel maybe a lot of despair or really like the lack of the ability to imagine a way that brings us together. So how do we put a spotlight on that? What is the framing, the alternative framing of, instead of war and having to choose a side in the war, what would be the reframing of the cause?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, for first, I understand this pressure. I mean, it extends to every aspect of this war. You know, this society pressure also happens with us, for example, the Palestinians. Our friends went to the protest. Why didn't you go to the protest? You are now not part of the group. Every one of us went to the protest. Everyone closed his shops or whatever and shouted X and Y and Z. The same society pressure goes in every aspect of this war because everyone wants us to behave in a certain way, let's say. But for me, as I said it at the beginning, I define myself as a pro-Palestinian, but that doesn't mean I'm an enemy of a pro-Israeli or that I closed my door to the pro-Israelis. Yes, I'm pro-Palestinian, but I also work, do everything with the pro-Israeli community and trying to build a bridge with them. You can define by yourself by being a pro-Israeli, but that doesn't mean you are anti-Palestinian. This is how I love to define it.
Yeah. It depends also the circle, what kind of pro they are. But we also in the last event, we had this thing where I think a lot of people come from where they compare suffer and they're like, oh, this side is suffer more. This history is more important. This event means everything now, and we have to go to this and this, and then it's like never-ending fight, you know, where yeah, we can sit as scholars and talk about history, or sit and just say who's the bad person, but I always ask people if you have like a scale where you can save life or you can be true with your narrative, you can convince, you can be right, what you will choose. Like if you just stop everything and you think, okay, what will just save life, you know? And I think that's a question maybe you can ask people that you have trouble to get somewhere. It doesn't mean that they're wrong or you have to debate them. Just crack the narrative a little bit by asking, how does it help us? You know, what you think, or how could you help right now to save life? And put for a second all this, you know, mess of ideology aside. When you think about those ideas of now changing the countries, changing the people, throwing them, abolish Zionism, you're out of the topic of saving life in Gaza right now. And if they really want to, they have to talk about it. They have to go back to the ground and go back to the question of you know, preserving life right now. Later, we can go back to the ideology and the debates, but right now, are what you're thinking is helping or not? I think it's maybe can be a start with some people.
I know it sounds weird, but it's possible for two contradicting narratives to be true at the same time.
Exactly.
It can be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're done for today.
Yeah, I think it's a lot. Thank you very much. It was really nice.